Long life to you, Thane.
Hello! Let's keep reading a few books that we got last time. That's actually quite a lot. Not the black books, those ones I cannot read. Maybe at the end of the quest with Mirak. That I need to finish. It's not that I forgot about it. Of all the things that I have, as always, let's go in order. So, first one is A Tragedy in Black. A folktale from the time of the Oblivion crisis. The Grimore looked on the young boy with disdain. He looked to be no more than 17 or 18, on the cusp of manhood. You have summoned me? Mother says I'm good with spells. Someday, I'm going to be a wizard, maybe even an archmage. And what would your mother know about magic, boy? She's a wizard. She's an enchanter at the Arcane University. Ah, another dabbler in the mystic arts. I'm certain she's barely mediocre. You shut up. I read the scroll. I get to tell you what to do. The Dremora was silent. Compulsion bound his voice. I want to know how to make a magic dress. I need it for her birthday. The Dremora's answer was more silence. You have to tell me. It's in the rules. Freed from the previous compulsion, the Dremora answered. First, you need a soul gem. I happen to have one, and will gladly give it to you for so a noble cause. Really? Why do I need it? With a hidden smile, the Dremora handed over the dull black gem. It is not enough to cast a spell upon an inert object. Magic requires thought, intent, will, and emotion. The soul powers the enchantment. The bigger the soul, the more powerful the enchantment. So how big is the one in the soul gem? Oh, that one is empty. You'll have to fill it. But it can hold the largest of souls easily. Do you know how to do that? No, the young man said, sullenly. Let me show you. You cast a spell like this. The tendrils of the soul trap spell spilled from his fingers and surrounded the boy. The young man's eyes went wide. I didn't feel anything, he complained. How about now? The Dremora asked, plunging his talons into the youth's ribcage. His heart beat only once before it was pulled from his chest. Quickly, the Dremora snatched back the black soul gem. Just as the youth died, his soul tried to flee, but it was trapped by the spell and drawn into the gem. Only black soul gems can hold the souls of men and elves. Your mother obviously never told you never to accept a freely given gift from a summoned Dremora, he said to the corpse. You see, it breaks the conjuration, freeing the summoned from the summoner. Now, let's go find your mother. After all, I have another black soul gem. Yeah, never make a deal with those things. They never end well. The Darkest Darkness by Anonymous. This one doesn't have an author. In Morrowind, both worshippers and sorcerers summon lesser Daedra and bound Daedra as servants and instruments. Most Daedric servants can be summoned by sorcerers, only for a brief period of time, within the most fragile and tenuous frameworks of command and binding. This, fortunately, limits their capacity for mischief, though it only a few minutes. Most of these servants can do terrible harm to their summoners, as well as their enemies. Worshippers may bind other Daedric servants to this plane through rituals and pacts. Such arrangements result in the Daedric servants remaining on this plane indefinitely, or at least until their bodily manifestations on this plane are destroyed, precipitating their supernatural essences back to oblivion. Whenever Daedra are encountered at Daedric ruins or in tombs, they are almost invariably long-term visitors to our plane. Likewise, lesser entities bound by the Daedra lords into weapons and armor may be summoned for brief periods, or may persist indefinitely, so long as they are not destroyed and banished. The class of bound weapons and bound armor summoned by temple followers and conjurers are examples of short-term bindings. Daedric artifacts like Maroon's Razor and the Mask of Clavicus Vile are examples of long-term bindings. The Tribunal Temple of Morrowind has incorporated the veneration of Daedra as lesser spirits subservient to the immortal Almsivi, the Triun, the godhead of Almalexia, Sothath Sil, and Vivek. These subordinate Daedra are divided into the good Daedra and the bad Daedra. The good Daedra have willingly submitted to the authority of Almsivi. The bad Daedra are rebels who defy Almsivi, treacherous kin who are more often adversaries than allies. The good Daedra are Boethia, Azura, and Mephala. The Hunger is a powerful and violent lesser Daedra associated with Boethia, father of plots, a sinuous, long-limbed, long-tailed creature with a beast-skulled head, noted for its paralyzing touch and its ability to disintegrate weapons and armor. The Winged Twilight is a messenger of Azura, goddess of dusk and dawn. Winged Twilight resembles the feral harpies of the West, though the feminine aspect of the Winged Twilights are more ravishing, and their long, sharp, hooked tails are immeasurably more deadly. Spider Daedra are the servants of Mephala, taking the form of spider humanoid centaurs with a naked upper head, torso, and arms of human proportions, mounted on the 8 legs and armored carapace of a giant spider. Unfortunately, these Daedra are so fierce and irrational that they cannot be trusted to heed the commands of the spinner. As a consequence, few sorcerers are willing to either summon or bind such creatures in Morrowind. The bad Daedra are Mehrunes Dagon, Malakath, Sheogorath, and Molag Bal. The 3 lesser Daedra are associated with Mehrunes Dagon, the agile and pesky scamp. Oh, those things in Oblivion. Yeah, I remember those. The ferocious and beast-like Clanfair, and the noble and deadly Dremora. The crocodile-headed humanoid Daedra called the Daedroth is a servant of Molag Bal, while the giant but dim-witted Ogrim is a servant of Malkath. Sheogorath's lesser Daedra is the Golden Saint, a half-clothed human female in appearance, is highly resistant to magic and a dangerous spellcaster. Another type of lesser Daedra often encountered in Morrowind is the Atronach, or Elemental Daedra. Atronachs have no binding kinship or alignments with the Daedra lords, serving one realm or another at a whim, shifting sides according to seduction, compulsion, or opportunity. The more you know. I think I didn't know that before. That's great. Okay, so Frontier, Conquest. Frontier, Conquest, and Accommodation. A social history of Cyrodiil. University of William Press. 3rd Era, year 344. Historians often portray the human settlements of Tamriel as a straightforward process of military expansion of the north of Skyrim. In fact, human settlers occupied nearly every corner of Tamriel before Skyrim was even founded. These so-called Nedic peoples include the Proto-Cyrodiilians, the ancestors of the Bretons, the Aboriginals of Hammerfell, and perhaps a now-vanished human population of Morrowind. Strictly speaking, the Nords are simply another of these Nedic peoples, the only one that failed to find a method of peaceful accommodation with the elves who already occupied Tamriel. Ysgramor was certainly not the first human settler in Tamriel. In fact, in fleeing civil war in Admora, as the Song of Return states, Ysgramor was following a long tradition of migration from Admora. Tamriel had served as a safety valve for Admora for centuries before Ysgramor's arrival. Malcontents, dissidents, rebels, landless, younger sons all made the difficult crossing from Admora to the new world of Tamriel. New archaeological excavations date the earliest human settlements in Hammerfell, High Rock, and Cyrodiil at... What was the M for? Because I remember the concept but not the word. I don't remember why. Okay. So, from the 800s to the thousands. Centuries earlier than Isgramor, even assuming that the 12 Nord kings prior to Harald were actual historical figures, the Nedic peoples were a minority in a land of elves, and had no choice but to live peacefully with the Elder race. In High Rock, Hammerfell, Cyrodiil, and possibly Morrowind, they did just that, and the Nedic peoples flourished and expanded over the last centuries of the Merethic era. There we go, Merethic era. That's the word that I was trying to remember. Only in Skyrim did this accommodation break down, an event recorded in the Song of Return. Perhaps being close to reinforcements from Admora, the Proto-Norths did not feel it necessary to submit to the authority of the Skyrim elves. Indeed, the early Nord Chronicles note that under King Harald, the first historical Nord ruler in the First Era, 113 to 221, the Admoran the Admoran mercenaries returned to their homeland, following the consolidation of Skyrim as a centralized kingdom. Whatever the case, the pattern was set. In Skyrim, expansion would proceed militarily, with human settlements following the frontier of conquest, and the line between human territory and elven territory was relatively clear. But beyond this zone of conflict, the other Nedic peoples continued to merge with the elven neighbors. When the North armies of the First Empire finally entered High Rock and Cyrodiil, they found Bretons and Proto-Cyrodiils already living there among the elves. Indeed, the Nords found it difficult to distinguish between Elf and Breton. The two races had already intermingled to such a degree. The arrival of the Nord armies upset the balance of power between the Nedic peoples and the Elves. Although the Nords' expansion into High Rock and Cyrodiil was relatively brief, less than 2 centuries, the result was decisive. From then on, power in those regions shifted from the elves to the humans. Ow, I hit my hand to the wall. I don't know if you can... Yeah, you must have heard that. Okay. Wait, that was it, right? For a moment I got like distracted by my hand, so from the elves to the humans, yeah. That did seem like the end, but just in case. So, Herbalist Guide to Skyrim. Agneta Falia. It has pictures? Oh, that's so nice. Okay. Those avoiding this northern province due to claims of barbarism or concerns over climate are doing themselves a disservice. In fact, Skyrim has wealth of materials that every alchemist would do well to avail himself of. I have traveled extensively throughout this land, and here are but a few of my findings. Bleeding Crown. The caps of these mushrooms do indeed appear smeared with blood, though it's often hard to see it in the dark, damp places in which they grow. Not uncommonly found in Skyrim, their abundance is countered by the difficulty in acquiring them. As any experienced herbalist knows, the darkest of caves often conceal far more than mere mushrooms. Nonetheless, these potent fungi? I think it's fungi. These potent fungi, when combined with certain powdered antlers, produce a mixture rendering one quite susceptible to poison. Their usefulness is also quite apparent when mixed with lavender, creating a substance highly resistant to magic. It's very nice. Death Bell. Folklore abounds about this flower found in the swamps of Shalmarch. Some stories claim it grows where unfortunate deaths have taken place. Others insist it grows first and then lures unsuspecting people and animals to their doom. I have found no direct evidence to support these stories. Indeed, I found the flowers difficult to locate at all. I mean, yeah, maybe they are a bit difficult for the normal people. While it's most well known for its use in poisons, it would be remiss to overlook that the blooms of the death bell are very effective in mixtures for boosting one's alchemy skill. Okay. Dragonfly. A surprising number of insects live in Skyrim's climate, many thriving in the lower southern areas of the province. Dragonflies can be found in a great many places, and while catching them can be daunting prospect, the reward is well worth the effort. It was beyond the scope of my research to determine whether the orange and blue dragonflies are fully different breeds or merely simple color variations, but through experimentation I found that the orange dragonfly, when combined with the very hardy barnacles found along the coast, transfer some of their flighty nature, giving the herbalist some very nimble fingers. Okay. Hag Raven Claw. The claws of Hag Raven are best obtained in shops. It is inadvisable to suggest one collects them themselves. Yeah, tell me about it. First time I saw a Hag Raven was by surprise. I was taken by surprise. I got jump scared by one of them. And then I died. And again because I had to do it with a quest. These creatures have traded in their humanity for access to powerful magics, and the transformations they undergo infuse their entire beings with some element of that power. Ingesting the powder claws make one more resistant to magic, but an especially curious property of the claws is revealed when mixed with snowberries, often found in Skyrim's higher elevations. I found myself capable of comprehending enchantments I have believed myself defined after ingesting the mixture, and have passed this knowledge on to several court wizards, who are grateful for the knowledge. Jasbay. There was a time when it would be considered treason to pick one of these grapes without express permission from the Emperor himself. It is my understanding that although growers in Skyrim were successful in improving the fruit's survivability, it came at the cost of flavor. No longer it's quite the price it once was, and yet, growing amidst the volcanic tundra of Eastmarch, it is still immensely useful for concocting potions. Mages value it highly as it can be combined with simple garlic to enhance the regeneration of magicka. While no longer against the law, picking these grapes in large amounts is best kept to oneself. Luna Moth Wing. As with the dragonflies, I was taken aback by the number of butterflies, moths, and other insects that manage to thrive in Skyrim. The Luna Moth is especially beautiful. It is thin, almost ephemeral. Wings seem too delicate to hoist anything into the air, giving them an almost magical appearance. Indeed, that sense extends to the properties they exhibit when crushed and distilled, an action, I admit, was difficult to perform at first, no matter my resolve to discover all that Skyrim has to offer. These creatures are simply that beautiful. While they can be used for creating poisons and damaged magicka, I feel that would be a waste of their potential. Do not be alarmed if, when the wings are broken down almost completely, they appear to almost disappear under your mortar. That very quality makes the wings quite effective in potions of invisibility. Tundra cotton. Not all Nords are savages wrapped in animal skins, howling at the moon. I just love the fact that they hate each other so much, all the races. But most of the races, or the nationalities, I should say, at some points. Like, they all think badly of each other, and it's amusing, at least for me, outside of the game's politics and stuff. Tundra cotton. Not all Nords are savages wrapped in animal skins, howling at the moon. There are a wide variety of fabrics worn throughout the land, thanks in no small part to the stubborn tundra cotton plant. It soaks up what rain it can in the plains west of Whiterun, and blooms frequently. While it does not exhibit any of the more striking alchemical properties, it is a staple in potions for not only fortifying magicka, but for resistant spells as well. I wonder if that quality is what allows it to have adapted so well to this climate. What is that? A nightshade. Oh, well, yeah, I cannot see that. Nightshade. The name and shape of this plant are known to all. Long understood to be one of the more potent components in many poisons, the average North keeps his distance from the bright purple flowers nested among dark leaves. It is exceedingly effective as a pure poison, but can also be combined with other compounds to stiffen joints as well. It is thus favored amongst those who wish to disable their opponents in battle, and can be found coating the blades of many of the more unsavory characters in Skyrim. Oh, there's nothing more? But I wanted to keep reading. Is there another one? Oh, it doesn't say volume 1 or anything, but I like really reading about plants. Oh, I didn't read that. I should have read this on the... Sorry. Oh no, I didn't read this. This is from the Black Star quest. I should have read it with that video. Sorry. But now I'm reading it, so everything's good, I guess. Okay, so The Black Star, an achievement of magic over Dedra by Malyn, Varen, and Master Enchanter. No. Those are not two different things. It's Malyn, Varen, Master Enchanter. It's like his whole title. Oh god. I am not doing great today. Sometimes I'm doing better for reading, but today I am somewhere else. Okay. Though some scoffed, some scorned at the very notion of experimenting on a deadly artifact, I have succeeded where the ignorant and superstitious would not even dare to try. The Black Star, my achievement over the Daedric Lord Asura, a re-envisioning and a remastering of the ultimate soul gem. It shall become the vessel of my immortality, final proof that mortals can live as indefinitely as the denizens of Oblivion. The visions, the voices that Asura has sent to taunt me, while some call me mad, I knew the truth. Nothing can be held sacred in the pursuit of advancing the very nature of magic itself. Let the Dedra send their foul images into my mind. They have given me the burning desire and relenting discipline to shut out all influence, all mortality. My disciples and I have built a new site, free of the prying eyes of those primitive minds in Winterhold. Fort Ilinata, we had been conducting a few minor experiments before our exile, some of which led to the disruption of the island, but a few enchantments have kept the ruins intact, and beneath the waters of Lake Ilinata has been the perfect place for the final phase of the Black Star. Oh, nothing more? Oh, it's like not that much. Okay. This note, I have it for I don't know how long. I need to clear out miscellaneous quests. I really want to, but I never get to it. I sometimes do a few and then just continue with whatever I was doing. So continue with this. How many do I have left? 1, 2... Okay, yeah, there's quite a few. Olaf and the Dragon by Adonato Leotelli. One of the more colorful legends in North folklore is the tale of Olaf, One-Eye, and Numinex. Long ago in the First Age, a fearsome dragon named Numinex ravaged the whole of Skyrim. The dreadful drake wiped out entire villages, burned cities, and killed countless Nords. It seemed that no power in Tramdriel could stop the monster. This was a troubled time in Skyrim's history, for a bitter war of succession raged between the holds. The Jarls might have been able to conquest the beast if they had worked together, but trust was in desperately short supply. A skillful warrior named Olaf came forward and promised to defeat the beast. In some accounts, he is the Jarl of Whiterun. In other versions of the legend, Olaf promises the people of Whiterun that he will capture the monster if they will name him Jarl. At any rate, Olaf ventures forth with a handful of his most trusted warriors and seeks the beast out, eventually finding Numinex in his lair atop Mount Athor. Needless to say, it is an epic battle. First, Olaf comes to the dragon with his axe and his shield. Some variants of the legend say that Olaf and the beast battled with blade and claw for days, but were too evenly matched for either to gain or an advantage. Most accounts hold that Olaf, perhaps frustrated that his weapons are completely ineffectual against the dragon, finally cast them aside. Giving voice to the rage that has been building within him, Olaf unleashes a terrible shout. Here again the stories diverge. Many accounts hold that Olaf did not realize he possessed the power of dragon speech, while others suggest that he had long possessed this gift, but wished to test himself against the dragon in martial combat first. Virtually all variations of the legend, however, agree on what happened next. Using the awesome powers of the dragon language, Numinex and Olaf engage in an epic shouting duel atop Mount Athor. So forceful are their words, they are said to shatter the stone and split the sky. Finally, Numinex collapses, from a combination of injury and sheer exhaustion. Somehow, and this detail is suspiciously absent in virtually every account, Olaf manages to convey the dragon all the way back to the capital city of Whiterun. The people of Whiterun are suitably impressed with Olaf's hostage. They build a huge stone holding cell at the rear of the palace, which they rename Dragon's Reach. This enormous cell serves as Numinex's prison until his death. Olaf himself eventually becomes the High King of Skyrim, putting an end to the War of Succession. Presumably, his great deed made him the only leader upon whom all the people could agree, and so the land once again was at peace. As a visitor to Skyrim, I find this tale both fascinating and highly entertaining. It is one of the most celebrated legends of the North, and one can easily understand why. It is a story of surpassing heroism, in which a resourceful and worthy North does battle with a truly terrifying adversary and emerges victorious by yelling him into submission. The only way in which this could have been even more of a Nordic tale would it be if Olaf bet Numinex in a drinking contest. The legend is not without its doubters, however. The bard Svaknir, who lived during Olaf's reign, wrote and performed an alternative verse that challenged Olaf's versions of the events. Enraged, the High King threw the rebellious bard in prison and destroyed all written copies of the verse. How I would love to lay hands on a copy of that verse. I admit I am immensely curious to know what assertions Svaknir made out of how Olaf really defeated Numinex. There are a few ancient bards texts that provide one possible answer. These tomes suggest that Numinex was particularly foul-tempered because he was extremely old. In these accounts, the dragon spends his final years terrorizing the countryside before flying off to the top of Mount Athor to die in peace. When Olaf finds Numinex, the dragon is too weak to defend himself. Olaf and his men capture the beast without effort, but decide to take advantage of the situation by fabricating a heroic tale. It is worth noting that all of Olaf's warriors who were set to witness the shout duel went on to become wealthy leaders during Olaf's reign as a High King. However, it is equally likely that Svankir had some grudge against Olaf, and his scandalous verse was an attempt to damage the High King's reputation. Alas, we will never know. I leave you now, good reader, with this gentle reminder. A good historian must remain impartial and consider all points of view. Time has a way of distorting our record of events, so the closer you can get to the original sources, the better. That is true. That is true. And also, it could be both. It could be that he embellished the story a little bit. That could also be it. And the bard was like, no, fuck that. This is what might have happened or must have happened. And then he paid with his life for it. That's a pity. But yeah. Sometimes people in power do that. The City of Stone. A City of Stone. A Spell Source Guide to Markarth by Amanda Aleya, Mercenary. If you're cutting your coins across Skyrim, you will want to point your blade towards Markarth, the capital city of the Reach. There is no end of travel in the City of Stone, and that means plenty of ways for you to earn your supper. Your sellsword instincts should point you towards the wealthiest patrons with the fattest purses to work for. But you need to mind yourself during your resting hours. Markarth isn't like your Whiterun, where mercenary companies like the Companions have a sellsword, an honored professional. No, Markarth has its own rules. Rules the natives aren't going to just tell you. Luckily for you, old Mrs. Alea is here to shine the torchlight over your thick skulls. First thing you will notice in the City of Stone is the stone. They say dwarves cut out the city from the mountain, and maybe they did by the look of it, but what it really means is that the whole place is vertical, and the streets are really cliffs. Long story short, be careful when you have got a belly full of meat. I just imagining people just rolling down the cliffs of the streets of Markarth. When you enter the city proper, you will immediately hit the market. The merchants usually sell food and jewelry on the streets. Meat is the preferred ration. The craggy rocks in the area make for poor farming land, and silver is what's used to make most of all the rings and necklaces you might buy. Thanks for the large silver mine in the city. We'll get to that in a bit. Whatever you do, don't ask the Markarth city guard about anything. They are about as helpful as angry frostbite spider while you are caught in its web, and if you mention anything about the Forsworn to them, they might spit in your eyes. Speaking of the Forsworn, these wild men and women will be your main source of income while you are in Markarth. The Jarl almost always has a bounty on some Forsworn leader or another, and if you don't mind going blade to axe with someone 2 septims short of a pint of ale is steady work. The Silver Blood Inn is where you want to head into after seeing the market. The drinks are, as usual, watered down, and judging by the metallic taste, with water from the rivers that run through the city's smelter district. What's important here is getting a room to stay in. You won't find any friendly faces to con your way into a cheap place to stay in Markarth. The natives don't trust strangers, so save yourself the trouble and put down your coin to rent a real room. Or steal a house, kill the owner, and keep the bed. I have done that. After you have spent a day recovering from travel, you will see the market is divided into 2 sides by the big crag in the center. The part with the big river running through it is called the riverside, and the other is called the dry side. The riverside is where the smelter and native workers live, so don't bother going there. Instead, head directly to the dry side and talk to the local nobles and see what problems you can start solving at the highest rate. 2 major places to see are the Temple of Libella and Sidna Mine. The temple rests at the top of the central crag, a good place to go if you're on good terms with the divines, but be warned, the priestess of Libella don't allow men into the inner sanctums, so don't go crashing down in there uninvited unless you want a short trip to a long fall. Don't worry, I don't have a problem with that. Sidna Mine is the place where all the silver comes from, that I mentioned before, but it's also the jail. Markarth uses prisoners to mine the ore, and there's a lot of it, so don't get caught doing something illegal in the city or you will be hauled down there to dig. Apparently, the whole place is owned by one of the big families in the city, the Silverbloods. Notice the inn is named after them? Always keep your sellsword eye open for hints like that. I tried meeting with the head of the Silverblood family to see if they had any work, but guarding their mines isn't the blood rush I become a mercenary for. Something to keep in mind for yourself if you're thinking of staying a few months. The final place I talk about here is the Understone Keep, the home of the Jarl in Markarth. The fancy palace like any other, assuming your palace is built underground. But what you need to know is the city underneath the keep. That's right, there's another city below Markarth, one of those old dwarven ruins. They sometimes have expeditions in the ruins that makes for a good job, guarding the scholars and maybe lifting a few stones here and there. If you're lucky, you might come across one of those old dwarven machines, and you can bring back a souvenir after you have done breaking it apart. Alright, Miss Alea's hand is getting tired, and that means this guide is done. Last piece of advice: don't cause trouble in market. Don't start fights. Don't stop fights. Don't stick your head anywhere without someone from the city paying you for it, because believe me, no one in market wants you there. Make your goal, drink your mead, see what's there to see, and move on. Nothing changes in the City of Stone, and that's just fine. That's pretty nice. I like that book. I really liked it. It's nice when you find those things like guides to actual cities, because I still haven't gone to Markath yet in this playthrough. I have been there, I have done a lot of quests there, but I never read the lore. This why did it click out of the game? What happened there? What is it? It sometimes does that, like clicks out of the game. I hope the audio didn't get all weird. What was I saying? Markath, yeah. I never read much of the lore of it. This playthrough I'm kind of getting more into the lore with the books and stuff. I'm paying more attention and kind of how to say it, connecting the dots in a lot of things. Like before I would like read a few names and be like, oh yeah, that kind of sounds like something that someone told me about this game or something, but I wouldn't really know where they are from most of the time. Now I recognize the names and I know where they are from, which is actually pretty nice. So yeah, I'm actually enjoying this way more than I thought I would. So we have 4 more books. 4 more books. Let's keep reading, why not? I'll just go to sleep after this. It's not that late, it's like 10 p.m. Wait. Oh no, this one's going to be for Wednesday. Oh yeah. Yeah, okay. I thought maybe this was going to be on the 1st of January. I was like, why didn't you say Happy New Year? But Happy New Year anyways. Okay, so The Doors of Oblivion by Saif Ish Hidja. When you enterest into Oblivion, Oblivion entereth into thee. Nigh Tyrol Lar. Kind of like when you look at the abyss looked back to you. The greatest mage who ever lived was my master, Morion Senas. You have heard of him as the author of the book On Oblivion, the standard text for all matters Daedric. Despite many entreaties over the years, he refused to update his classic book with his new discoveries and theories because he found that the more one delves into these realms, the less certain one is. He did not want conjecture, he wanted facts. For decades before and after the publication of On Oblivion, Senas compiled a vast personal library on the subject of Oblivion, the home of the Tetra. He divided his time between this research and personal magical growth, on the assumption that should he succeed in finding a way into the dangerous world beyond and behind ours, he would need much power to handle its dark paths. 12 years before Senas began the journey he had prepared his life to make, he hired me as his assistant. I possessed the 3 attributes he required for the position. I was young and eager to help without question. I could read any book once and memorize its contents, and despite my youth, I was already a master of conjuration. Senas too was a master of conjuration, indeed, a master of all the known and unknown schools, but he did not want to rely on his ability alone in the most perilous of his research. In an underground vault, he summoned Dedra to interview them on their native land, and for that he needed another conjurer to make certain they came, were bound, and were sent away again without incident. I'll never forget that vault, not for its look, which was plain and unadorned, but for what you couldn't see. There was scents that lingered long after the summoned creatures had left. Flowers and sulfur, sex and decay, power and madness, they haunt me still to this very day. Conjuration, for the layman, unacquainted with its workings, connects the caster's mind with that of the summoned. It is a tenuous link, meant only to lure, hold, and dismiss, but in the hands of a master it can be much stronger. The Psychics and Dwemer can, in the Dwemer case perhaps I should say could, connect with the minds of others, and converse miles apart, a skill that is sometimes called telepathy. Over the course of my employment, Senas and I developed such a link between one another. It was accidental, a result of two powerful conjurers working closely together, but we decided that it would be invaluable should he succeed in traveling to Oblivion, since the denizens of that land could be touched even by the skills of an amateur conjurer. It was possible we could continue to communicate while he was there, so I could record his discoveries. The doors to Oblivion, to use Mori and Senna's phrase, are not easily found, and we exhausted many possibilities before we found one where we held the key. The Psychics of Ardeon have a place they call the Dreaming Cave, where it is said one can enter into the Daedric realms and return. Iachesis, Sothasil, Negmathig, and many others have been recorded as using this means, but despite many entreaties to the Order, we were denied its use. Celarus, the leader of the Order, has told us it was being sealed off for the safety of all. We had hopes of using the ruins of Battlespire to access Oblivion. The Weir Gate still stands, though the old proving grounds of the Imperial Battle Mages itself was shattered some years ago in Jagartharn's time. Sadly, and after an exhaustive search through the detritus, we had to conclude that when it was destroyed, all access to the realms beyond the Soul Cairn, the Shade Perilous, and the Havoc Wellhead had been broken. It was probably for the good, but it frustrated our goal. The reader may have heard of the doors, and he may be assured we attempted to find them all. Some are pure legend, or at any rate not traceable based on the information left behind. There are references in lore to Marcus Abyss, the Corrington Mirror, the Mantel and Crooks, the Crossroads, the Mouth, a riddle of an alchemical formula called Jacinth and Racing Sun, and many other places and objects that are said to be doors, but we could not find. Some exist, but cannot be entered safely. The whirlpool in the Abyssian called the Maelstrom of Baal can make ships disappear and may be a portal into Oblivion, but the trauma of riding its waters would surely slay any who tried. Likewise, we did not consider it worth a risk to leap from the Pillar of Thras, a 1,000-foot tall spiral of coral, though we witnessed sacrifices of the stones made there. Some victims were killed by the fall, but some, indeed, seemed to vanish before being dashed on the rocks. Since the slaughter did not seem certain why some were taken and some died, we did not favor the odds of the plunge. The simplest and most maddening complex way to go to Oblivion was simply to cease to be here and begin to be there. Throughout history, there are examples of mages who seem to travel to the realms beyond ours seemingly at will. Many of these voyagers are long dead, if they ever existed, but we were able to find one still living. In a tower of Saphirvale Bay on the island of Ardenfell in the province of Morrowind, there exists a very old, very reclusive wizard named Divaith Fear. He was not easy to reach, and he was reluctant to share with Morian Senas the secret door to Oblivion. Fortunately, my master's knowledge and lore impressed Fear, and he taught him the way. I would be breaking my promise to Senas and Fear to explain the procedure here, and I would not divulge it, even if I could. If there is dangerous knowledge to be had, that is it. but I do not reveal too much to say the fierce scheme relied on exploiting a series of portals to various realms created by Telvanni we saw long missing and presumed dead. Against the disadvantage of this limited number of access points, we weighed their relative reliability and security of passage, and considered ourselves fortunate in our informant. Morian Senas then left this world to begin his exploration. I stayed at the library to transcribe his information and help him with any research he needed. Dust, he whispered to me on the first day of his voyage. Despite the inherent readiness of the word, I could hear his excitement in his voice, echoing in my mind. I can see from one end of the world to the other in a million shades of grey. There is no sky or ground or air, only particles, floating, falling, whirling about me. I must levitate and breathe by magical means. Senas explored the nebulous land for some time, encountering vaporous creatures and places of smoke. Though he never met the prince, we concluded that he was in Ashpit, said to be the home of Malacath, where anguish, betrayal, and broken promises like ash fill the bitter air. The sky is on fire, I heard him say as he moved on to the next realm. The ground is lush, but traversable. I see blackened ruins all around me, like a war was fought here in the distant past. The air is freezing. I cast plumes of warmth all around me, but it still feels like daggers of ice stabbing me in all directions. This was Cold Harbor, where Molak Bal was prince. It appeared to Senas as if it were a future Nirn, under the King of Rape, desolate and barren, filled with suffering. I would hear Morian Senas weep at the images he saw, and shiver at the sight of the Imperial Palace, spattered with blood and excrement. Too much beauty, Senas gasped when he went to the next realm. I am half blind. I see flowers and waterfalls, majestic trees, a city of silver, but it's all a blur. The colors run like water. It's raining now, and the wind smells like perfume. This surely is Moonshadow, where Asura dwells. Senas was right, and astonishingly, he even had an audience with the Queen of Dusk and Dawn in her Rose Palace. She listened to his tale with a smile and told him of the coming of the Never Varen. My master found Moonshadow so lovely, he wished to stay there, half blind, forever, but he knew he must move on and complete his journey of discovery. I am in a storm, he told me as he entered the next realm. He described the landscape of dark twisted trees, howling spirits and billowing mist, and I thought he might have entered the deadlands of Maroon Stagon, but then he said quickly, "No, I am no longer in a forest." There was a flash of lightning, and now I am on a ship. The mast is tattered, the crew is slaughtered. Something is coming through the waves. Oh gods, wait, now I'm in a dark dungeon, in a cell. He was not in the Deadlands, but Quagmire, the nightmare realm of Baernima. Every few minutes there was a flash of lightning and reality shifted, always to something more horrible and horrifying. A dark castle one moment, a den of ravening beasts the next, a moonlit swamp, a coffin where he was buried alive. Fear got the better of my master, and he quickly passed to the next realm. I heard him laugh. I feel like I'm home now. Morian Senas described to me an endless library, shelves stretching on in every direction, stacks on top of stacks. Pages floated on a mystical wind that he could not feel. Every book had a black cover with no title. He could see no one, but felt the presence of ghosts moving through the stacks, riffling through books, ever searching. It was Apocrypha, the home of Hermeos Mora, where all forbidden knowledge can be found. I felt a shudder in my mind, but I could not tell if it was my master's or mine. Morian Senas never traveled to another realm that I know of. Throughout his visits to the first 4 realms, my master spoke to me constantly. Upon entering the Apocrypha, he became quieter, as he was lured into the world of research and study. The passions that had controlled his heart were unearned. I would frantically try to call to him, that he closed his mind to me, that he would whisper, "This cannot be. No one could ever guess the truth. I must learn more. I see the world. A last illusion's shimmer. It is crumbling all around us." I would cry back to him, begging him to tell me what was happening, what he was seeing, what he was learning. I even tried using conjuration to summon him as if he were a Daedra himself, but he refused to leave. Morinsenas was lost. I last received a whisper from him 6 months ago. Before then, it had been 5 years, and 3 before that. His thoughts are no longer intelligible in any language. Perhaps he's still in Apocrypha, lost but happy, in a trap he refuses to escape. Perhaps he slipped between the stacks and passed into the madhouse of Sheogorath, losing his sanity forever. I would save him if I could. I would silence his whispers if I could. I was not expecting to be so invested in that. That was good. That was really good. It would be nice to visit all of those realms, actually. It would be really good. The Hope of the Redoran by Turil Nirith. One of the few magical arts of Psychics of Ardeum have kept themselves away from the common spells and school of the Mages Guild. It is the gift of divination. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, omens and prophecies abound in Tamriel, some of substance, others of pure folly, and still others so ambiguous as to be unverifiable. There are still other prophecies kept secret, from the prophecies of Droshizar in Elsewhere, and the Nerevarin in Morrowind, to the Elder Scrolls themselves. The Nord nobility have a tradition of having omens read for their children. In general, these readings are of the obscure variety. One of my acquaintances told me that her parents were told, for example, that their daughter would have her life rescued by a snake, and so gave her the name of Serpent King in a special ceremony, and this young lady, Eria Valcor Serpent King, was indeed saved by a snake many years later, when an assassin creeping on her stepped on a down swarm viper. Occasionally, omens seem to be almost profoundly misleading, as if Boethia has crafted them as traps. I recall one particularly. Many years ago, a male child was born into House Redoran. It was a very difficult birth, and the mother was delirious and near death by the time it was over. She chanted just as her son came into the world, and she passed from it. Fortune has smiled this day, not frowned. My child will be mighty in mind and in arm. He shall bring hope to House Redoran. Neither spell nor blade shall hurt the man, nor illness nor poison cause any harm. His blood shall never drop on the ground. The boy, named Andas, was indeed extraordinary. He never was ill and never suffered so much as a scratch all throughout his childhood. He was also quite intelligent and strong, which combined with his invulnerability caused many to call him, after his mother's omen, the Hope of the Redoran. Of course, anyone who is called the Hope of Redoran will eventually develop some taint of impertinence, and it wasn't long before he had enemies. His worst enemy was his cousin, Athin, who had borne much abuse at the hands of Andas. Primary among the grudges was that Athin had been sent to Rihad to complete his education at Andas' insistence. When Athin returned from Hammerfell, it was because of the death of his father, who had also been a councillor of the house. Athin was old enough to take his seat in the council, but Andas claimed the seat as well, saying that his cousin had been gone too long from Morrowind and didn't understand politics as he did. The majority of House agreed with Andas, waiting to see the Hope of Redoran rise quickly. Athin exercised his right to combat his cousin for the seat. No one thought he had any chance of winning, of course, but the battle was scheduled to commence the following morn. Andas hoarded and dined and drank with the councillors that night, confident that his place in the house was secured and the hopeful new dawn of the House Redoran was rising. Athin retired to his castle with his friends, Anda's enemies, and his servants he had brought from Hammerfell. See, the idea that he cannot be killed or hurt or anything and he's still going to be extraordinary is kind of ruining him, because the cause of him being hurt, because most likely I think he's going to be hurt or something, is going to be his pride. It's going to be his pride, it's going to be his overconfidence. Athen and his friends were discussing the duel morosely when one of the old teachers, a warrior called Shardi, came into the hall. She had grown quite proud of her student over the years in Hammerfell, proud enough to accompany him across the empire to his... Are we good? Proud enough to accompany him across the empire to his family's lands, and wanted to know why they had so little confidence in his thoughts in the battle. They explained to her Anda's uncommon blessing and the nature of his mother's omen. If he can't be harmed by disease, poison, magicka, and his blood can never be spilled, what hope have I of ever besting him? Cried Athen. Have you remembered nothing I told you? Replied Shardi. Is there no weapon you can think of that will slay without blood? Are swords and spears and arrows the only items in your arsenal? Athen quickly realized the weapon Shardi was speaking of, but it seemed absurd. Not only absurd, but pathetic and primitive. Still, it was the only hope he had. All that night, Shardi trained him in the art and techniques, showing him the various swings and stances her people had developed in Albion Gora, counterattacks, feints, and blocks imported from Yokuda, the classic one- and two-handed grips of the most ancient weapon in history. The cousin faced one another the next morning, and never had two combatants look so unevenly matched. Anda's entrance brought a great cheer, for not only was he much beloved as the hope of the Redoran, but as his victory was a foregone conclusion, most wanted to be in good standing with him. His shining mail and blade drew admiration and awe. By contrast, Athen drew a gasp of surprise and Elias muttering a polite applause. He appeared costumed and armed like a barbarian. As Shardi had suggested, Athen allowed Andas to attack first. The hope of the Redoran was eager to finish the battle and take the power he deserved quickly. The blade pushed by Anda's mighty arm slashed across Athen's chest, but shallowly, and before it could be counterswung, Athen knocked it back with his own weapon. When Athen attacked and wounded Andas, the hope of Redoran was so surprised by being hurt for the first time in his life, he dropped his sword. The less said about the end of the battle, the better. Suffice to say that Athen, wielding a simple club, battered Andas to death without spilling a drop of blood. Athen took his father's seat as counselor, and it was then said that the hope in the omen referred to Athen, not Andas. After all, had Andas not tried to take the counselor's seat away from his cousin, Athen, being not very ambitious, I had never tried to get it. It can certainly be argued that way, I suppose. I thought it was going to be more of his pride. I mean, in a way, it did. He didn't know how to cope with the pain without ever feeling pain in his life. But yeah, a club. Break his bones. And you will win the match. I mean, if you hit someone hard enough with a club, I think they're going to bleed from... Well, it's not blood spilled if it's internal bleeding. So I think, yeah, it works. It really works. Oh, no! I did not want to do that. Vernaccus and Bourlor. Okay, so this is actually another day I couldn't keep reading back then, so maybe there's something different. I was updating a bit things here in OBS. Hope everything's fine. So yeah, let's keep reading the books. We only have 2 left. So this one is Vernaccus and Bourlor by Tavi Gromio. Halgard walked into the king's ham that Loretta's evening, his face clouded with that sadness, while he ordered a mug of grief. His mates Garaz and Xiomara joined him with moderately sincere concern. "What's wrong with you, Halgard?" asked Xiomara. "You're later than usual, and there's a certain air of tragedy you have dragged in with you. Have you lost money, or a nearest and dearest?" "I haven't lost any money," Halgard grimaced, "but I have just received word from my nephew that my cousin, Alioth, has died. Perfectly natural, he says. Just old age. Alioth was 10 years younger than me." "Oh, that's terrible. But it goes to show that it's important to savor all of life's possibilities, because you never know when your time is coming," said Garaz, who had been sitting at the same stool at the Smoking Corner Club for the last several hours. He was not one cursed with self-awareness. "Life's short, all right," agreed Xiomara. "But if you will pardon a sentimental thought, few of us are aware of the influence we will have after our deaths. Perhaps there's comfort there. For example, I have told you the story about Vernaccus and Bourlor." "I don't believe so," said Halgard. "Vernaccus was a Daedra," said Xiomara, throwing a few dribbles on Flynn on the hearth to cast the proper mood. "And though our tale took place many, many years ago, it would be fair to say that Vernaccus still is one. For what, after all, is time to the immortal Daedra?" "Actually," Garaz interrupted, "I understand that the notion of immortality. I am trying to offer our friend an inspirational tale in his hour of need," Xiomara growled. "I don't have all bloody night to tell it, if you don't mind." "You wouldn't have heard of Vernaccus," said Xiomara, abandoning the theme of immortality for the time being. For even at the height of his power and fame, he was considered feeble by the admittedly high standards of the day. Of course, this lack of respect infuriated him, and his reaction was typical of a lesser Daedra. He went on a murderous rampage. Soon word spread through all the villages of Colovian, west of the unholy terror. All families had been butchered, castles destroyed, orchards and fields torched and cursed so nothing would ever grow there again. To make things even worse for the villagers, Vernaccus began getting visitations from an old rival of his from Oblivion. She was a Daedra seducer named Harabatha, and she delighted in taunting him to see how angry she could make him become. "You have flooded a village, and that's supposed to be impressive," she would sneer. "Try collapsing a continent, and maybe you will get a little attention." Vernaccus will become pretty angry. He didn't come very close to collapsing the continent of Tamriel, but it wasn't for lack of trying. A hero was needed to face the mad Daedra, and unfortunately, one was available. His name was Bourlor, and it was said that he had been blessed by the goddess Kinareth. That was the only explanation for his inhuman accuracy with the bow and arrow, for he never missed a target. As a child, he had driven his marksmanship tutors wild with frustration. They would tell him how to plant his feet, how to knock a bolt, the proper grip for the cord, the best method of release. He ignored all the rules, and somehow, every time, the arrow would catch a breath of wind and sail directly to his target. It did not matter if the quarry was moving or still, at very close range or miles away. Whatever he wanted to strike with his arrow would be struck. Bourlor answered the call when one of the village mayors begged him for help. Unfortunately, he was not as great a horseman as he was an archer. As he rode through the forest towards the mayor's town, a place called Evensagon, Vernaccus was already murdering everyone there. Harabatha watched and stifled back a yawn. Murdering a small town mayor isn't going to put you in famous company, you know. What you need is a great champion to defeat. Someone like Isgamor or Helena Whitestrake, or... She stared at the figure emerging from the forest. That fellow. "Who's he?" growled Vernaccus between bites of the mayor's quivering body. "The greatest archer in Tamriel. He's never missed." Bourlor has his bow strung and he was pointing it at the Dedra. For a moment, Vernaccus felt like laughing. The fellow was not even aiming straight, but he had a well-honed sense of self-preservation. There was something about the man's look of confidence that convinced the Dedra that Horavatha wasn't lying. As the bolt left the bow, Vernaccus vanished in a sheet of flame. The arrow impaled a tree. Bourlor stood and stared. He had missed the target. In Oblivion, Vernaccus raged, fleeing before a mortal man like that. Not even the basest scamp would have been so craven. He had exposed himself for the weak, cowardly creature he was. As he considered what steps to take to salvage the situation, he found himself face to knee the most fearsome of the Dedra princes, Molag Bal. "I never thought anything much of you, Vernaccus," the giant boomed, "but you have more than proven your worth. You have shown the creatures of Mundus that the Dedra are more powerful than the blessings of the gods." The other denizens of Oblivion quickly agreed, as they always did, with the view of Molag Bal. The Dedra are, after all, always very sensitive about their various defeats at the hands of mortal champions. Vernaccus was proclaimed the elusive beast, the unusurpable one, he who cannot be touched, the bane of Kinnereth. Shrines devoted to him began to be built in remote corners of Morrowind and Skyrim. Bourlor, meanwhile, now flawed, was never again called to rescue a village. He was so heartbroken over his failure to strike his target that he became a hermit and never re-strung his bow again. Some months later, he died, unmourned and unremembered. "Is this really the tale you thought would cheer me?" asked Halgard incredulously. I have heard the King of Worms told more inspirational stories." "Wait," smiled Xiomara. "I'm not finished yet." For a year's time, Vernaccus was content to watch his legend grow and his fledgling worship spread from his home in Oblivion. He was, in addition to being cowardly and inclined towards murderous rages, also a very lazy creature. His worshippers told tales of their master avoiding the bolts of 1,000 archers, of moving through oceans without getting wet, and other feats of avoidance that he would rather not have to demonstrate in person. The real story of his ignominious retreat from Bourlor was thankfully forgotten. The bad news, when it came, was delivered to him with some relish by Horavatha. He had delighted in her jealousy at his growing reputation, so it was with a cruel smile she told him, "Your shrines are being assaulted." "Who dares?" he roared. "Everyone who passes them in the wilderness feels the need to throw a stone," Horavatha purred. "You can hardly blame them. After all, they represent he who cannot be touched. How could anyone be expected to resist such a target?" Vernaccus peered through the veil into the world of Mundus and saw it was true. One of his shrines in Colovian West Country was surrounded by a large platoon of mercenary soldiers, who delighted in pelting it with rocks. His worshippers huddled inside, praying for a miracle. In an instant, he appeared before the mercenaries, and his rage was terrifying to behold. They fled into the woods before he even had a chance to murder one of them. His worshippers threw open the wooden door to the shrine and dropped to their knees in joy and fear. His anger melted, then a stone struck him, then another. He turned to face his assailants, but the air was suddenly filled with rocks. Vernaccus could not see them, but he heard mercenaries in the woods laugh. "He's not even trying to move out of the way. It's impossible not to hit him," whooped another. With a roar of humiliation, the Dedra bounded into the shrine, chased by the onslaught. One of the stones knocked the door closed behind him, striking him in the back. His face broke. anger and embarrassment disappearing, replaced by pain. He turned, shaking, to his worshippers, who huddled in the shadows of the shrine, their faith shattered. "Where did you get the wood to build this shrine?" Vernaccus groaned. "Mostly from a copse of trees near the village of Evensacon," his high priest shrugged. Vernaccus nodded. He dropped forward, revealing a deep wound in his back. A rusted arrowhead buried in a world of the wood of the door had jolted loose in the assault and impaled him. The Daedra vanished in a whirlwind of dust. The shrines were abandoned shortly thereafter, though Vernaccus did have a brief resurgence as the patron spirit of limitations and impotence before fading from memory altogether. The legend of Bourlor himself never became very well known either, but there are still some who tell the tale like myself, and we have the advantage of knowing what the great archer himself didn't know in his deathbed. His final arrow found its target after all. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I actually wasn't expecting the archer to die just like that, but that's actually a pretty good end to that story. It was really interesting. Okay, so Yellow Book of Riddles. No author? Okay. For earnest pleasure and the strengthening of the mind, the author here collects all that he has learned of the art of riddling by dint of diligent study and through years of discourse with others in similar inclination. The posing and puzzling of riddles is a convention of polite aristocratic Western society. Nobles and social aspirants collect books of riddles and study them, hoping thereby to increase the chances of their appearing sly and witty in conversation. The metal neither black nor red, as heavy as a man's golden greed. What do you say? What do you stay ahead with, friend or arrow or steel? Dial? Rose. The answer is lead. Lead? Lead? Took me a while to know that that was written backward. A man says, "If you lie to me, I'll slay you with my sword. If you tell me the truth, I'll slay you with a spell. What must you say to stay alive?" The answer is, "You will slay me with a sword. Slay you with my sword. Tell me the truth. I will slay you with a spell. What must you say to stay alive?" I'm bad at riddles. I don't know. I'm just going to read this. Bosmer was slain. The Altmer claims the Dummer is guilty. The Dummer says the Khajiit did it. The Orc swears he didn't kill the Bosmer. The Khajiit says the Dwemer is lying. If only one of these speaks the truth, who killed the Bosmer? The answer is the Orc. Dummer. Oh, because only one of them. Wait, if only one of these speaks the truth. Okay. Yeah. If only one of them. Because the other ones will be contradicting themselves. Right? Or it would mean that more than one was telling the truth. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, there's nothing more? Okay, so that was all the books that I had to read. That was quite a lot. I actually read... Hi, Valdemar. Hi, Lydia. Lexi in the fire. I actually read quite a lot last time. Oh, yeah, and I need to put them on the shelf.
Long life to you.
Excuse me. Where am I leaving them? I want to complete that one. That one was very good. And I want to complete the wolves. The Wolf King. The Wolf Queen. What am I? Girl. Why are you like this? Okay, store that one. Store that one. That one. That one. That one. That one. That one's not a book. There you go. Malyn Varen's Grimore is just sticking out like a sore thumb there, but okay. Are you having trouble with the door? Oh yeah, I have to do a lot of storage, like inventory. What's the star doing there? I left you here. Get inside the case. There you go. Damn star cannot stay where I left her. Oh yeah, I have Akatosh. Yeah, we're going to do that. Or at this point, maybe I already did that. Just leave everything that you can here. There you go. Oh yeah, Dawnbreaker! Yeah! What was it? Burns for 15 points and then killing undead. A chance to cause a fiery explosion that turns and destroys nearby undead. Should I keep that one? Oh, it's pretty! It's very pretty. Dawnbreaker is very pretty. I completely forgot. This is a one-handed weapon. Burns for 15 points. Okay. Oh, I have so much stuff. Okay. So, yeah, the bolts I'm not using, but I should leave a few things here. Why do I have... Why? Yeah, the Orcish bow. No, no. So many stuff of firebolts. Yeah, why not keep Dawnbreaker? Looks cooler. Okay, so equip that one. Keep the Orcish bow. A few arrows. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Why do I have boots? Okay, yeah, sure, but that's not what I wanted to do. I feel like I wanted to do something else today. Oh yeah, wait. Do I have... Yeah, I have a few things I need to put here. The jewel box, like the amethyst. No, the hide. Wolf belt. Oh yeah, I need to do that. Ruby? Skull. Why do I put a skull there? Well, doesn't matter. It's okay. Search and put other stuff. Why is there gold there? Miscellaneous. And I think I had a plate or something. Yeah, I have a plate and a ruin book. Why not put them there? Okay, another wooden plate. There we go. Yeah, now we have a lot more space for the next time that I play. Oh yeah, I need to harvest this. Yeah, thank you. I really like having this. Do nothing. I didn't want to activate it. I wanted to harvest. I always do the same. I'm just in autopilot. Then I accidentally get one of the plants. Thankfully that doesn't happen in real life, but yeah, here is the most normal thing for me. Okay, so that would be all for today, so goodbye, bye bye.